I'm a morning person. I usually get up at between like 5 and 6 a.m. and I like to start my day early, and I usually go to bed very early as well. By 9 p.m. most nights, I'm either in bed starting to fall asleep or I'm like asleep. So I'm not that embarrassed to admit that I was nervous when I found out that I had to do nights on my relief term as an intern doctor. So when I found that out, I started deep diving into a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of Google searches and articles by doctors who had to do night shifts. And I just accumulated a whole bunch of information that I'm synthesizing into this video. I kind of want this video to be a store of all the things that worked really well for me, because right now you are looking at Dr. Sil after a full set of nights, and it's now midday, and all these tips worked so well that I'm here now and I have the energy to make a YouTube video after a full kind of set of nights. And I've been awake now, I don't know, since like 6 p.m. yesterday, and I feel pretty good. First, how do you start your set of nights? Because normally hospitals or whatever job you're working in, when you do night shifts, they'll give you a set of nights. Secondly, how do you maintain or how do you thrive during the process of nights? Part 3 is how do you finish the night shifts? I'll also just finish on a fourth point with a series of tips that I found really helped for me, and some of them I kind of came up with, so maybe you haven't heard them before. And so that's the structure, but before we get into the video, I actually think we need to talk about sleep. So nights are inherently unhealthy, right? People who work night shifts for long periods of time have higher levels of metabolic syndrome and diseases, and they die earlier and they're more tired and they make more mistakes. Like nights, yeah, you've got millions of years of evolution from all of your ancestors who have primed you to stay awake during the day and asleep at night. And you know, you have the audacity to accept a job that does the opposite of what you've been evolved to do. So yeah, it's bad news that you have to do nights and you haven't evolved to do it. But the good news is there's a lot of tips and tricks and insights out there that can make you get through nights. But before we get into the tips and tricks, we first need to understand sleep and how we fall asleep, okay? And to understand sleep, you must become a master of light. Light hits your retina goes to a place in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That sends a signal to a place called the pineal gland, and that releases a thing called, that inhibits the release of a thing called melatonin if there's light, and if there's no light, it doesn't inhibit it and you release melatonin. And melatonin is the thing that tones you down, it chills you out, it makes you feel like sleepy. You ever woke up feeling groggy? That's sleep inertia, because you're waking up a lot of melatonin. So the summary of all that is, if there's light, there's no melatonin and you feel awake, and then when there's no light, there's high levels of melatonin and you feel groggy. This is really important to understand because using light will help you flip your cycle to sleeping during the day and being awake at night. Another quick tip, if you haven't read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, I can't recommend it highly enough. It is so enlightening, and a big summary of the whole entire book, if you want to just save yourself a couple of hours, is that sleep is so freaking important, and it is an active state of mind where you're processing and doing a lot of active neurological stuff and psychological stuff too. And so if you miss out on sleep, it's fundamentally unhealthy. So you need sleep, and that's why it's really important to master sleep during night shifts. Okay, so how do you master sleep? First, you must master light. Okay, so if you're gonna sleep during the day, there's a couple things you need. First of all, you need blackout curtains. You know, I don't know what the room setup you're living in is at the moment, but you need to block out all kind of natural light. You need to control the light. And then on top of that, you need to use an eye mask. Haha. This is the Manta Sleep Eye Mask. It is absolutely awesome. It cost a bunch of money because I'm in Australia and you can only get them from the States. There are competitors that make similar products, but it has cups, right? So that it blocks out 99.99% of light. But like, just with the blackout curtains, with the blackout eye masks, it's never really blackout. There's always a trickle of light that comes in and just to piss you off. So if you have curtains plus an eye mask, it should be really dark and you should be able to fall asleep and stay asleep much better. You can also start turning on the night light on your phone, which will block blue wavelength light coming out of your phone, which is the wavelength of light that is most active in inhibiting the release of melatonin, and you want melatonin to feel sleepy. So having night light will help with that. And you also want a pair of sunnies when you're kind of finishing up your shift. You chuck them on straight away for your drive home so that the natural light outside is reduced, because that really will kind of make you feel jet lagged if you're driving home in bright light. A pair of sunnies really helps decrease the amount of light exposure that you're getting. Now, controlling light will help you get to sleep. The other important thing is staying asleep. Now, staying asleep, you need to decrease interruptions. So first of all, if you live with a partner, you need to talk to your partner and say no coming into the room while you're sleeping during the day at all. Use the other bathroom in the apartment or whatever, but you can't be disturbed. Now, on top of this, you probably should use earplugs. I use earplugs all the time, even when I'm not sleeping during the day. And these little foam things are not freaking earplugs. These things suck. If you like these things, you suck. I'm just kidding, sorry. But I hate these things so much that they're crap. They hardly block the noise at all. Now, these are what I'm talking about. These ones are a little bit rank, as you can tell. Sorry about that. I've run out, so I need to go buy some more. These are wax earplugs, okay? So they really block out sound. They can be a bit uncomfortable for the first night if you haven't used them before, but now I'm so used to them, I kind of need them to fall asleep. And you have to chuck them out after a couple of uses, because they get earwax on them, which is gross. Make sure you put your phone to do not disturb and to night mode while you're sleeping, and set an alarm to wake up so that you psychologically don't need to worry about what the time is. You can just trust that your phone will wake you up when you need to wake up for your next night shift. Now, the final thing we can talk about is melatonin. Now, people get a lot of a hard time when they talk about pharmaceutical drugs on YouTube. I'm not a drug rep, and this is not medical advice, but I'm just telling you what worked really well for me. Now, the evidence on melatonin is pretty murky. There's been a couple of randomized control trials, and some have been unequivocal, but I think in summary it works for some people and not for others, and it definitely worked for me. So at an individual level, I'm gonna keep using this. It's not the cheapest thing. It costs like 40 bucks for 30 tablets, but it's a really good way to get you to sleep and maintain sleep pretty well. Now we've spoken heaps about sleep, let's now talk about how I started my set of nights based on all the advice I saw online. Now, when you're thinking about starting your nights, there's two schools of thoughts. School of thought number one is you start a night early. So if you're starting on Sunday night, Saturday night, you'll pull an all-nighter and you'll try and sleep during Sunday day. Second school of thought is you basically just try and get a good night of sleep on Saturday night. You try and not do too much on the Sunday day, and then you just grind out that first shift, which always will suck. Negligible of if you prepared or not. Now, initially I was going to stay up all night and play video games with my friends in order to prepare, but I spoke to a couple of doctors. One recommended I should do that, and the rest recommended I really shouldn't, because no matter how you prepare, you'll still have a crappy first night. And I thought, well, if I'm gonna have a crappy first night in terms of fatigue, I might as well be well rested for it. So this is what I did, and it worked so well. And I haven't seen too many people recommend this online, so hopefully it works well for you. If you start your shifts on Sunday night, then on Saturday night, the night before, go to bed as early as you can and sleep as well as you can. Get a really good night's sleep. And then on the day of your shift, do nothing. Spend all day in bed. I spent all day in bed. I binged movies, and I even took a melatonin to start having a melatonin spike during the day to start switching my cycle. I took it at like 10 a.m. and then I had a nap. By 9 p.m., which is when my shift started, I really needed to get out of the house. I mean, spending all day in bed for me makes me really want to go and get stuff done. And so I arrived at work ready to work. Kept myself as a prisoner all day so that by the time I needed to go to work, which would be normally the time I go to sleep, I was ready to go and do something. And the first shift actually went really well because I was busy, and because I had been so well rested, and because there's so much artificial light in the hospital, and I was sitting myself in front of computers. I didn't need a nap, but I did need a bit of a caffeine infusion. So now let's talk about not only surviving the set of nights, but thriving through the set of nights. So when you're doing your night shifts, I think a really good point is avoid napping and really commit. I mean, you need to see the night as your day. You need to see you need to switch the PM and the AMs around. You need to say good morning when it's 9 PM because really it's 9 AM psychologically. So in order to survive the nights, I actually did need to use some caffeine. And so I would kind of do it like if you were resuscitating a patient, I give them a bolus. I give myself a bolus of energy drink and then an infusion maintenance rate. Just a small bolus, like a quarter of a can of Red Bull, and then a sip of the can every hour until like 3 AM. And that actually worked really well to not give me any hard crashes in caffeine. So I highly recommend that. If you're not interested in a kind of energy drink, you can also try kombucha. I don't know why people drink kombucha. I don't know why I drink kombucha, but I'm kind of really into it at the moment. Over the last 3 weeks, I've just been smashing kombucha every day. And this is a raspberry lemonade one. It's really good. And it kind of is a placebo caffeine hit. I guess it's because they're in similar cans that I think that it probably, like placebo, has caffeine in it. But this also has helped me stay awake. Now, I didn't need to nap during my night shifts, but if you kind of crack, and that's all right, I'm not angry, it's okay. If you do need a crack, you can do a caffeine nap. So a caffeine nap is essentially where you smash something with a lot of caffeine in it, a cup of coffee or half an energy drink, and then you take your nap. And as you sleep, the caffeine will be increasing in your blood and you'll be feeling more and more awake. And so the caffeine should wake you up naturally from that. And so you don't wake up with a large amount of sleep inertia, which is that grogginess you get, which is that high level of melatonin in your blood. The caffeine should bring you out naturally, and then you should feel pretty good. But you'll still have a pager on you. You still might get disrupted if you have a nap. But luckily, yeah, I bloody commit. And then on finishing your set of nights, which is where I am right now, I think the best bet is to just try and not sleep during the day and just go to bed early on the night that you finish your set of nights. The night after, I guess, because you'll finish in the morning, stay awake during that day, and then go to bed at night. So I just finished my shift at 9 AM. It's now 12:30 PM. I'm feeling pretty good. Making this YouTube video, I admit, helps me stay awake a little bit easier. And I will have a bit of caffeine later if I need it. I'll probably go to bed around 6, and I will still take melatonin so that overnight I have a steady melatonin level in my blood. I'm very sorry if you guys are really anti-medicines or medications. I think it's okay to use medicines because this is not a long-term lifestyle. I'm not going to be doing nights for the rest of my life. I'm just doing 3 sets of nights. So it's 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off. And so during that time, I'm happy to just kind of take medicines if it helps me survive. So caffeine's a drug and melatonin's a drug. I'm using both to kind of survive. But I feel pretty good. It's not a big problem for me. Okay, now I just want to go through a series of important tips that I found really helpful during my night shifts. Tip number 1 is placebo is everything. So stop seeing the time as 9 PM, it is 9 AM, and you see it as 9 AM even though it says PM. When you see people in the hospital at 9 PM, you say good morning. I got a lot of funny looks, but people get it. So I say good morning at night, and I say good evening when I'm heading home, and I tell everyone else to sleep well. You know, it's pretty funny, but it really does make an impact. So I'm not looking at the clock and seeing 3 AM, because if I did, I'd feel horrible. I see 3 PM and I go, oh yeah, it's a nice afternoon, time for a cup of tea or something. Tip number 2, focus on your posture a lot. I got a really sore back because when you're tired, you naturally hunch. Also, if you are vertical, your intervertebral discs do not get hydrated. So fun fact, I don't know if you know this, not many people do, and they always find it a fun fact, so here it is for you. Over the day, as gravity presses on your spine, your intervertebral discs dehydrate, they lose water, and you get 2 centimeters shorter over the day. So if you're awake all day and then you're awake all night, your intervertebral discs aren't rehydrating and you're prone to getting a sorer back. So lying horizontally during a night shift, if you have a 5-minute break, is a good idea to let them rehydrate a little bit, and drink plenty of water, but also keep good posture. That helps too. Another really helpful tip is to not think of a shift as the Monday night shift, but rather the Monday-Tuesday shift. First of all, the placebo thing. Stop calling it nights. You're not working nights, you're working days, because you need to flip your brain around. The other reason that that's a really helpful tip is because it gets kind of confusing when you say, oh, I'm doing the Monday night shift. You're working Monday night, in the morning of Monday, because like between midnight and 3 AM is Monday night in a way. psychologically, and you're working Monday night between like 9 p.m. and midnight. I don't know, I just found myself really getting confused a couple of times this week when people are like, oh, your Tuesday night, blah, blah, blah happened. And I'm like, or I'd lose track of where we are because you're working through 2 dates. So yesterday becomes before midnight or midday, and today becomes after it, and it gets confusing. So instead of just saying Monday night or Tuesday night, you call it the Monday-Tuesday shift and the Tuesday-Wednesday shift. And I found that helped a little bit. It still gets confusing, but it's better than nothing. And now for the final tip, and the most important thing that I want to communicate, but I'm sure not everyone has stayed to this part of the video. If you have, leave a comment down below with an emoji of an elephant, so I know that you stayed for the whole video, and I love your comments, so thank you for staying so long. But this is actually a tip that I think is a very serious point, because shit happens. If you're under the age of 44, the most likely way that you will die is through trauma. And the most likely way you will die from trauma is in a car accident. And the most likely way that you will die in a car accident is because you're tired. So I guess I'm making the point that driving home after a night shift, especially after a series of night shifts, is probably one of the most dangerous things you will do in your life. And that sounds like I'm catastrophizing it, but I'm not. Like, you need to not take the piss when you're driving home. Take it very seriously. If you think you can't, then have a nap. I know it's not part of my advice for thriving during nights, but it's more important that you don't crash than you feel amazing through your night shifts. So do what you need, but don't take the piss. Drive safely, because it is dangerous. All right, that is it for the video. Look, nights are fundamentally unhealthy thing to do. I hope this makes it a little bit easier to cope with nights. I mean, I'm having a great time during nights. I want help from you guys. I want you guys to comment down below things that you do for your night shifts that you find very helpful, and we can get a whole list of helpful tips down below. If you want to support me, best thing you can do is share this video with someone else that you know that might be doing nights soon. You can also like the video. That helps YouTube algorithm promote it to more people who are doing night shifts. And if you want to support me, you can also join my Patreon account. We can message directly. All right, that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.